Tommy James. Tommy, come on out here. Tommy James. All right, Tommy. Here's a guy for many years, followed his career, and very, very happy to say became a friend of his and over the years, and we've had some fun times together. And Tommy, to begin with, there are a lot of people who do know this because I asked you this many times on the radio, but there's a fascinating story about that very first hit. Even though it was a hit in the summer of '66 that went to #1, the song I'm talking about is Hanky Panky. And Tommy, share with the audience, if you will, there's a fascinating story about that song.
Well, Hanky Panky was actually a song that I had recorded back in high school with my band, the Shondells, in a radio studio, WNIL, in my little hometown of Niles, Michigan. And nobody been to Niles, huh? And it died a miserable death in 1964. And, you know, we really didn't have much hope. So we sort of forgot about the record and went on the road when I graduated from high school in '65. And came back sort of dejected and out of work in early '66 and got a call from Pittsburgh that the record was sitting at #1. And somebody had bootlegged 80,000 records and sold them in 10 days. Listen, only in America, right? You know, God bless the crooks. And, you know, that was it. You know, we were off.
That song, again, Jeff Berry and Ellie Greenwich. Now, these are two very, very talented writers. They wrote that song, and Tommy went from there. You know, a lot of people say, okay, here's a guy, one-hit wonder, and then all of a sudden, hit after hit after hit after hit. The interesting thing, in 1967, I don't know if I ever shared this with you, I was in the offices of at Roulette Records, Morris Levy.
Oh, yeah.
And in sitting in his office, I was sitting out there waiting to go in and talk to him, and there was two guys in there by the name of Bo Gentry and Richie Cordell.
Oh, yeah.
And they were playing an acetate of a song called I Think We're Alone Now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's interesting because I was asked to come, you know, here's a young guy, he said, come on in, what do you think of this song? And everybody was jumping up and down. And he said, who did it? I said, I don't know. And he said, Tommy James. I said, the same guy for Hanky Panky? And what a song that was. And the interesting thing, too, in Mirage, the follow-up, what you used that effect with the, why don't you, because some of the people who have that record in their collection, I'm sure many do, the effect you used on that record.
Well, you know, Mirage was I Think We're Alone Now backwards. And that's a true story. It sounds like it was made up by a press agent, but we accidentally, after the final, listening to the final mix of I Think We're Alone Now, got the reel-to-reel tape on upside down, and it played backwards. And we just say, you know, we like those chords. Our world was wiggling pretty good back then. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that, hello? What I'm trying to say, see, somebody just, you know, the censors. What can I say? Anyway, so we liked it backwards. We were strange. Anyway, we wrote the song. Anyway, but they went off in a corner, wrote it, and it became the next single, Mirage. That's a true story.
You know, there's a song that later on Tommy's going to be doing, and he shared this story with me, and I'd like him to share it with you. The genesis behind the song called Moni Moni.
Well, yeah. Well, let's just do the whole show, right? Moni Moni really was, we had, you know, my writing partner, Richie Cordell, and I were really panicking because it was the night before I was supposed to go in and do the vocal on this new party rock track that we had, and we just couldn't come up with a title. We were looking for like a Sloopy or Boney Maroney or something, but everything sounded stupid. So we went out onto my terrace in New York, and I happened to look up, and the first thing our eyes fell on was the Mutual of New York Insurance Company. M-O-N-Y. That's a true story. And we just started laughing because that, you know, had to be the name. That was the name we were looking for. I've often thought if we were looking in the other direction, it would have been called Hotel Taft.
Tommy, we all know about the great songs that you've given us in the 60s and 70s, but a lot of people would like to know Tommy James in this century, the 21st century. What is Tommy James up to?
Well, it's funny you should ask. We're actually putting together a show called American Jukebox. We hope to have up and running on television next year, and we want to do new videos to the classic rock hits, and I'm emceeing the show. So we'll see what happens.
Now, you know, the interesting thing is there's a guy in the booth by the name of Michael McCary, and Tommy James was actually the inspiration for this show with Michael. Why don't you share with our audience how this idea and this show came about?
Well, Michael McCary, who is George Veris's partner, they both produced the show, came to my home and actually sat down over the kitchen table. We talked about doing this in Cleveland this way. And, you know, the minute he said that he laid it out for me, it just had to be a monster show. And I can't think of anywhere we'd rather do it than the epicenter of rock and roll right here in Cleveland.
Why on that theme, why is this the right time to do this show, Tommy?
Well, I just think that we're in a very interesting time right now, you know, between two technologies. It's almost like it's in the air. There's between, you know, we're in between somehow the digital technology and analog technology. We still haven't quite gotten out of the analog yet. But the music from these acts is the music that everybody knows and will fit beautifully into the new technology of the internet and you know, all the other things, the delivery systems.
Tell me this, because performers like yourself, you go into a studio, you get an idea for a song, sometimes you're there for a couple of days, couple of months, whatever, but you're working in a studio with musicians and you get the song. And you listen to it and you say, I love that song. And then all of a sudden the real test is when you come out on stage and look out at that audience, and that's when you really know, right? The faces.
Absolutely right. You know, whenever we would write a song, because we were writing records, we weren't writing songs. And to me, the acid test was, how is it going to? Are people going to get up and dance to this record? Are they going to? You know, what are they going to think of this record? Because before I'm anything else, I'm first a fan.
Well, Tommy James, I hope you're rock on forever. He'll be back later on. Let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen, for Tommy James.